Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who's about to discover my opinions about things. It's Frank. How are you today?
I'm good. I have a lot of feelings, and we're going to talk about all of them right now. We're going to stop in the middle of what we're doing and talk about my feelings right this second.
Are you feeling sad?
Sure.
Happy?
Yes. I'm feeling sad and forlorn and all kinds of other feelings. But the point is, we must stop the action to talk about
just
feelings.
talk about feelings.
Just talk about feelings.
Every episode.
You remember when I said we have 5 minutes, otherwise this whole ship's going to blow? Let's stop and talk about our feelings.
We could talk about those feelings for 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Give us 32 seconds to solve the problem.
That's how good we are at solving the problem.
Yeah,
that we only need the last 32 seconds.
Yeah. Anyway, Frank, we are here to talk about season 5, the final season of Star Trek Discovery. I assume that in some ways probably going to also talk about seasons 1 through 4 as a wrap up to the whole show.
Sure.
And so if you have not seen any of it, we're probably just going to spoil as much as possible in full conversation, just FYI. But before we do that, Frank, tell me what you're drinking on this episode of Beer with Geeks.
I'm not drinking a beer this evening. I recently went with my family to Ireland to see the homeland of my wife's ancestors. Mm-hmm. And while we were there, we went to the Jameson distillery, as one does when one is in Dublin and one's a tourist. And I brought home a few Jameson nips. Nice. And these were some that are hard to find apart from the distillery. This is Jameson Irish Whiskey Stout Edition. This is aged in a stout barrel.
What?
Whiskey finished in craft beer barrels. So, yeah, it's aged in a stout barrel, and so it has a little bit of a stout flavor to it. So I'm going to be pouring myself a shot of that on the rocks. I am having it in one of my Burger King Star Wars glasses.
Nice. Of course.
So,
classy. Please. We're nothing but classy here on Beer with Geeks. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Star Wars glass on a Star Trek episode, I mea culpa, I'm sorry.
It's also not lost on me that it's July and you're drinking a stout or something.
Oh, man. Walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did. You're of your own volition, your own choice. I had nothing to do with it. I can smell it through the microphone.
Yeah, it's very...
Yeah, it's potent. How is it? Delicious?
It's wonderful. If you like Irish whiskey, it's very, very good, and it's got sort of a sweetness. It's got more of the caramel sweetness part of the stout, rather than the bitterness or any of that. So yeah, really, really enjoying this. I don't know if I'm not sure if you can buy this one here. There were a couple. I got kind of confused. There were 3 or 4 that they told us about, and some were available everywhere. Some were available only at the distillery. Some were available, in Ireland, but not in the U.S. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But yeah, Jameson Stout Edition. It is lovely. I really like it.
That does sound lovely. This is I'm not drinking it tonight, but it is related to whiskey that I had the pleasure of drinking 18-year-old Scotch last week. Andrew, our friend of the show, I went to go visit him, and we went to visit his parents, and his father was kind enough to share his 18-year-old Scotch, and unpeated, so no smoky flavor. It was like more of a honey-esque quality to it, and it is probably the best drink I've ever had in my entire life. Like, it was absolutely incredible. And I just consider myself very fortunate. And even though I'm not drinking it this evening, I need to make mention of it because it was that good. Yeah. So Probably the best thing I've ever had, and probably ever will have.
Yeah, right.
Like for a long time.
Oh man,
yeah, because it was good.
Do you know, or do you remember what distillery it was from?
No, I don't. And I actually had a tab open.
Oh,
of like, okay, this is what it is. Everyone, I'll remember. And then what did I do? I closed the tab. So
that's okay.
And Lord knows when I closed it, which is
right.
which is the annoying part. Although, when did I go to Morey?
Tomore.
Yeah, TORMORE.
Okay.
It is.
Oh yeah, there is.
It is one of the oldest Scotch distilleries in the world. It's like 17 something or other. It's been around. And by gosh, it was amazing. I'm trying to think. Maybe we'll look at the bottle, because usually the bottle is like, vintages that have been around for a long time. They're like, we're very proud.
Yes.
Well, they must have been. Well, it said founded. The internet says founded in 1958, but that's not what the bottle said. So I'm going to go with the bottle. I'm sure it's been around longer. But anyway, it was incredible. Do recommend. Top of the line, top notch.
Amazing.
Yes. But tonight I am drinking a Banded Pilsner from the Banded Brewing Company, which is close to your neck of the woods.
It is.
They're
Biddeford.
They're in Biddeford, Maine, on the Saco River, from the Saco River water. Helderberg malt, Hersbrucker hops and yeast. Snappy, crisp, and delicately balanced. That is the Banded Pilsner. We shall band together. It's very good. So there's really nothing really to say. It's kind of heavy for a Pilsner.
For a Pilsner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like veering in on. Truthfully, it's like veering in on like brown ale heaviness.
Oh, interesting.
It's like really heavy for a Pilsner. I like it a lot. I'm actually glad that I'm drinking it tonight because it's not too hot out. It's not like, it would be one of those like, ooh, I can feel, if it's not 80 degrees at 9 o'clock, I can feel it in my stomach kind of beers. And so, but it's quite cool around here right now. So I'm okay.
That's why I'm having the stout whiskey.
Right. Yeah. Because it's quite cool.
It's a cool night.
You're a cool night. You're a cool person, Frank. Anyway, Frank, we're here to talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 5. I don't. You started watching Discovery right from the beginning.
I did. They aired the pilot on CBS in primetime, and I watched it live.
Okay. I did not. I don't think. No, maybe I did. No, I don't think I did. I hopped on. I tried Season 1, couldn't get into it, and then when I had COVID back in 2020, 2021, April 21, I was like, well, I'm stuck in a room. I'll give Discovery a shot. And basically watched all the seasons up until that point. And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll keep going. And that's pretty much how I felt leading all the way up to the finale of the show. Yeah, all right, okay, well, I'll keep going. And so what were your thoughts early on?
Yeah, I've had a funny relationship with the show because I felt like the first season they had a definite story they wanted to tell. Seasons 2 and 3 were a little bit meandering for me. Mm-hmm. Season 4 kind of brought it back on track a bit, and Season 5 I think stayed on track. But that said, I haven't always even when they were not meandering, I haven't always loved like the season arc. This show is very much in the modern streaming style of television. That is a season long arc with little adventures that happen along the way. But it's definitely not like the sort of anthology style or the
one and done.
Yeah, one and done style that you get from like
all the other Star Treks, basically, except DS9.
Most of the other Star Treks, yes.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad. It's not really a bad thing. Like I don't mind that.
It's not. That was an interesting departure from sort of typical Trek. I actually liked that they wanted to go that direction. Mm-hmm. It's just that I didn't love all of the season long arcs.
Yep. They do feel long for the amount of episodes that you're watching.
That's the thing. They do feel kind of long.
And I think this is part of the issue I was thinking about. So, like, especially like zeroing in on the finale of this show, like this whole thing about like the crew will become your family, and there'll be this and this and this and this. And I was like looking at like, especially at the end when they're all like gathered in the memory and whatever else, and I was like, I don't know who any of you people are. like I know you've been on the show. I recognize your faces. Like, and the only reason I know Linus's name is because they said it like 6 times at the beginning of this season.
Right.
You know, when the new number 2, when the new commander was like learning everybody, and I just like, and they're all like, "Oh, don't be a grump," and he's like, "I'm grumpy," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
but you were all grumpy through like 2 seasons basically, and now you're it was just too inconsistent." And so it was ending on this, like, we love each other vibe. And I'm like, I know that's what they were going for the last couple of years. But I just, like, I never felt like the crew really connected with each other. Like, they were all in the same room together. But I was like, when was Stamets ever, like, hanging out with this crew member, whose name I still don't know?
Yeah,
like,
it's so true.
Like, you know, Lieutenant Christopher or whatever. Like, what? Yeah, they just didn't feel like a knit group. And I could, to their, in their, not favor, but like, I could argue that it's because other Trek shows there are 26 episodes a season, and they have 10 or whatever.
That's right.
You know, so like obviously they have less than half the time that other shows had to get together. But to you, I submit Strange New Worlds.
Well, yeah, right, yeah.
So, like, although it does help that I, like, know half that crew
We
already.
do know a lot of the characters already. But I do agree, though. I think that they wanted us to get that feel from the crew, and they were telling us how close everyone was, but I didn't really feel it.
Nope.
And you know, arguably, by the end of by season 5, they've been through, you know, they went forward 1,000 years and everything else, right? Like they've been through a lot together, and even so, knowing that, I don't feel like I saw a lot of them being like family. It didn't feel like a payoff at the end. It was just sort of like, oh well, that's nice for them that they're all.
That's
together.
nice for them.
Nice.
That's basically how I felt through basically every episode of the show. That's nice for them. And whenever I think part of the issue with Discovery is that everything's at a 10. Like, everything's the worst thing ever, or everything's like the universe is going to end and whatever. So, like, when you get to the next thing, you're like, you're going to solve it. Like,
it's hard to,
it doesn't ramp up in any particular way. It's just always up here.
Right.
It's just like, it's an extraordinarily action-based Star Trek, which I don't care for. I don't love that ever. Like, I prefer the Star Trek episodes that are not action oriented.
Sure.
Because like when they are, there's a like, oh, something's happening. Like, this is important, everyone. You know.
Right. If they were all action oriented, then none of them would stand out that much.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah. And then I get like really petty where I'm just like, the U.S.S. Discovery is like this weirdly thin ship. Like, I don't like it. Like, do you all even fit on there? Like, you know, just like things like that. I just like none of it works. I will say that Michael there's a huge character arc for Michael.
Yes.
From season 1 all the way to the end, especially like flashing forward into the future, which honestly I found more interesting than the rest of the show. Like, there was something about like, oh, you're in the future. Like, what? Oh, that shuttle is really quiet. Why is that interesting to me?
Oh,
yeah. I don't know.
I have a slightly different opinion on the tag at the end there. I don't know. I felt like the episode ended, right? Like that was the end of the episode, and it was sort of a, what will Michael do? What will her future look like? You know, will she choose to? Will she truly sort of let go and keep her sort of life and her work separate, or will she, you know, keep falling into that sort of pattern, right? And I kind of liked that
ambiguity.
The ambiguity. Thank you. Like the lack of a final answer, I thought was an interesting way to end. And then the epilogue answered it immediately, and it felt a little bit like they shot it later or something.
Maybe it didn't test well at the end. Like maybe it just
or they got network notes or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it feels like that was tacked on to sort of, okay, let's resolve it. Which I didn't dislike it, but when I thought I was watching the ending, I liked the ending that I saw, and then there was an epilogue. I guess
it is possible that I don't know the timeline exactly of the show, but maybe they didn't know it was going to be the final season until after some of that was written
that is
or
true.
whatever.
That is true. They shot this thinking there would be another season.
Yeah.
So that's fair. But even so, like I kind of think that was a suitable ending. But that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. There is something nice when Star Trek episodes or shows end and it's like the adventure continues. You're just not going to watch it,
right?
Because the show's over.
That's how I felt it. Yeah, and I like that.
Which basically you do get, except that you know the end result.
Right. That's right.
You just don't know the chapters in between. But also, I don't care. Right. Like I think that was
okay.
it.
So Michael Burnham, the interesting thing about the show was that and for the first time, it's not going to be from a captain's point of view, right? Because she was the mutineer and she was new on the ship and all that stuff. And, I don't know if this was the plan from the beginning or what. I know that we changed showrunners 2 or 3 times over the course of 5 seasons. So, but to have her go from mutineer to captain, I think was a really, really cool transition. And that I did buy. As much as we were saying that some of the relationships we didn't really buy, I did. I felt like that felt earned, and it felt as unlikely as it sounds that someone can go from leading a mutiny to being a starship captain. I did follow it and believe it as it went along.
Yeah, I think the show. I mean, what was different about Discovery is that the show's real central focus is Michael, in a way that other shows do spend time with other characters. Like, the captain is the focus, in a lot of ways, but you spend a lot of time with other crew members that are not Picard or not Sisko, from what I've seen. Or I assume not Janeway, or Kirk or whatever else. Like they're Kirk maybe less to an extent, I feel like.
Sure, but there are episodes that are lighter on Kirk and Spock,
right?
Let's say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And here it was just it was pretty much just Michael and then Saru and then Stamets and then it kind of trickled
Tilly,
down until but it kind of trickled down that way. It didn't always they were oh, they're there, they're doing things. And I don't think it was a fault of the cast at all. I think it was just the way that the show was delivering its material, because they're all fine actors. There was nobody that was this person's terrible. I never felt that way. And so it just didn't. I said the only character that besides Michael that really I feel kind of stood out as something worthy of watching was Saru.
Yes, Saru was. I think Saru kind of quickly cemented himself as a fan favorite and is one of the more memorable sort of. Almost legendary Star Trek characters.
Which is great. But not every ship has memorable characters, or every show has everybody
right.
will go down in infamy. But there's less and less of them by the time you get to Discovery. And I will say, weirdly, the only other character that I was oh yeah, this one's worth watching or your time is Booker, who's not even a member of Starfleet.
Right.
Yeah. And that might just be because he was on Supergirl, so I have some affinity for the actor already, but
Manchester Black.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just all very it was a thing. And then this season, I felt it tried hard to connect to other parts of Star Trek, even though it takes place in the far future and whatever else. The secretive guy was a crew member on the original Enterprise. Right, and so can't remember his name. Adams, remember Adams? You know who I'm talking about? The guy with the glasses who said his real name.
Well, I remember his real name, but I don't remember his.
It was his real name. That's what I was actually looking for.
David. Oh wait, no, I don't know. Not
Agent David. can't.
I don't remember. Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use my one lookup.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So
I had it and I lost it.
So, like that was cool, but that also just feels like, well, whatever. We're just trying to connect to a fan base that already exists and whatever. So I don't know. The show just didn't like. If I would never pick Discovery as an entry point into Star Trek. I would go in so many other directions.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
I would.
This is for if you are already like a pretty deep fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is another set of stories to check in with. David Cronenberg, that's his name.
Okay. You wanted the actor's name, like the real actor's name.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I thought you wanted the like his like character name.
Got it. No, sorry, I meant his the actor's name. But yeah, he's
Agent Daniels.
Agent Daniels.
I looked at it. I used my one lookup, the U.S.S. Enterprise. So he was on the original Enterprise from the Enterprise show from the early 2000s.
Was he really?
Yeah. So, because I was like, well, obviously that name comes from somewhere, so I looked it up. So,
Agent Daniels.
Agent Daniels, yes, not David Cronenberg, the famous director, / actor.
That's where you lost me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm on track with you. Yes. Yeah. In between Scanners and The Fly, he
was just on Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of, I just was like, by the end, like, you tried.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and Star Trek isn't even like an S tier for me, right?
Sure.
It's not the highest that it will go for me. And even I was like, just like, it's not doing anything to like endear myself to this universe.
Yeah, I get that. I do. I think that it's for people who already like Star Trek, and if you want to explore sort of a different era, a different sort of area of even the fact that like with the Spore Drive, like a different kind of ship with a different kind of technology, right? And the fact that we start before the original series timeline, and then we dip in sort of cross over a little bit at the beginning of the original series timeline. And then we spout off 1,000 years later. It's unique in a lot of ways, and those are things that would only matter to you if you cared about Star Trek already.
Yep. But didn't care enough for it. But in like this weird middle ground where you like didn't care enough that it will like change things.
No, right? Yeah, it doesn't really. It doesn't. But it's sort of just like
except for Spock having a half sister.
I don't know, man. It's like reading a comic that's like just like a side story that takes place in the Batman universe or something like, and it's just sort of Bruce and Dick like dip into the story for a minute and then they're gone, but like it was technically still a Batman story. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that. It's just, but instead of being a single issue story, it was 5 seasons.
Yeah, 65 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think. In 65 episodes, why don't I know them? Like, yeah. I think
that is because we changed showrunners so many times that they changed direction. Like like I said, they were meandering for a while, and they sort of landed somewhere finally. But I'm glad that they landed in a good place. It's a bummer they didn't get to end the show knowing that it was their final season. But I think that it actually worked really well as a good final season. I didn't know that till after it ended.
Yeah,
they had thought this was going to be that there was going to be a season 6.
I didn't,
but
either,
it feels
but
like the story.
It feels like a finale. Yeah,
the whole story arc feels like wrapping up Michael's story, the whole season arc. So it feels very intentional in that way.
Yeah, I guess the only elements of it that I can see where it wouldn't feel like a finale in like there's like you don't really say goodbye, like it's like a forced goodbye right at the end, but you don't like do like a final tour of Starfleet or anything that. It's like that kind of stuff is kind of that typical finale things are kind of missing in that way. But The things that you actually really did like about it. We've been kind of down on it. But,
yeah, sure.
yeah. But is there anything that you're like, no, that was cool. I can dig that, including the whole show and season 5.
Yeah. I thought the spore drive stuff was actually very, very interesting and a very different, like a whole different kind of science, like biology instead of sort of, physics as the science behind the way that they get around. I thought it was very interesting, and that it's the only ship that has that technology, so it's unique in that way. I really liked that. I really loved Stamets' character, and I really loved. Tilly grew on me at the beginning. I didn't. It was sort of like an Ahsoka from Clone Wars for me, where at the beginning I was like not the biggest fan, but by the end actually really liked her. And I loved Tig Notaro's character when she was the way that she had her like back and forth with Stamets, and they would talk about whatever science to science a problem out of existence. I loved her character. They used her so sparingly, but she was great. There were some great actors on this, like Anthony Rapp. Like they pulled some really great people. Wilson Cruz, like they really Doug Jones, right, for Saru, like some really quality people, and I think that made a difference because here you have these people as like your scene partners, alongside some of the fresher faces. But I think that like sort of elevated so much. And Sonequa Martin Green, I think, is fantastic, and like carried the weight of a show where she was, in virtually every scene, carried it so well, and really made me like the character of Michael Burnham, and she really like inhabited that character and developed that character in a really organic, believable way.
Yep, I would agree with pretty much all of that, especially the development of Michael, because like you're working through a couple of different showrunners, a couple of different directions for the show, tone shifts, whatever, and she just rolled with it every time to like create a generally seamless transition in tone for Michael that is believable from one hop to the next one. And so I think I do appreciate that. I think aesthetically a lot of it is very good looking.
Yes.
I don't love the coldness of Discovery. Like, it's not a ship that you'd want to spend your time on, really. You're like, it feels more like a science vessel in some ways. Like, we're not concerned with being comfy over here. No carpet over here at all.
Right.
And all that was good. Doug Jones, of course. I do like it was like the more formal Starfleet uniforms of the future. I didn't love the first 2 seasons. Like I didn't really care for those. Like the
navy blue ones.
Yeah,
no, everyone looked the same. I didn't.
No, I didn't care for those. But but I did like the formality of the ones in the future. I think they were really sharp looking. I liked the ones even in the further future. Like when she's admiral. Like those. Yeah. That all worked for me. Like that felt good. I just Truthfully, I didn't like the spore drive. I don't know why. I just I don't know why I couldn't get into it. It just just maybe it felt too convenient that they could always be like, and we're here, like so like part is like we're not going to get there in time. Like that. Creating that.
I guess
obviously it had other tensions.
Yeah.
But
how did you like them transporting around the ship?
Oh, with like personal transporters.
Yeah.
For the future, I liked it. Like it didn't but I just like why would you walk anywhere is what was interesting to me. Like that people like walk from like room to room and they're like walking in the hall. I'm like, if you could transport, why are you like what are you doing? Like walking anywhere. I think that actually struck me in the second to last episode, the 9th episode, I think, or the ensign, I can't remember their name. But they were like someone's ensign so and so to the shuttle, and they were like, oh, gotta go, and then like, like, well, why were you? Anyway, but yeah, it just creates little things like that where you're like, it would probably shift more of your behavior than you think it would, but I don't know. I did like the new commander this season. I can't remember his name.
Yes.
With the ears.
Yes.
It starts with an R. Roy? I don't know.
I'm not going to remember his name, but I did like he was a good sort of a good foil for Michael.
Yeah.
I liked that they both had something to learn from each other.
Me too, because I think she and Saru were so close, but they were so mushy each other.
Yeah.
They were like so like into the feelings that like you needed somebody a little harder to come in. Like it was actually it actually created a better unified crew on screen for me to watch. Like I wish
agree.
that it had happened sooner.
I wish it had happened like when she became captain, like
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even sooner than that. Like, yeah, I do wish that he had been around longer. But he was a great addition to the cast. I wasn't sure about him initially, if I was going to like having a new.
Sure.
I was like, wait, we're losing Saru, and now like what's going on here? But I really enjoyed having him around.
Yeah, part of that it was because Doug Jones went to go do Hocus Pocus 2.
Okay, I was wondering. I figured it was something like that.
That's why he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't in it. But again, also feels like a finale in that way that like one of your main characters isn't around as much.
Yeah, right.
So, but anyway, it's like a C, like
yeah, it's like it's maybe a B. It dabbles in B minus.
It can dabble in B minus. Yeah. We didn't even talk about the villains in season 5. That's how just like and they were there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't know they were not that spectacular. I'm still like not sure how I feel about the Klingons from season 1 and why they were completely different than any Klingons we've ever seen. That was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Still have unresolved feelings about that. But.
Yeah, I just like honestly, I just like in my head, it's Discovery is going to be one of those things where like it just probably didn't happen.
Yeah, it's in its own little pocket universe, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
whatever.
That's it.
Whatever.
Yeah. Overall, it's like I'm probably not going to I don't see myself rewatching the series. I could see myself rewatching some episodes, but I don't see myself, ever binging the series.
I don't think any episode had a big enough impact on me to be like, "Yep, I got to rewatch that." It's just not going to happen. Yeah. But anyway, that's that. Frank, where can the people find us?
BeerWithGeeks.com would be the place to catch this and all of our almost 500 episodes. We are on the road to 500, just a scant few weeks away.
We're on the road again.
Planned. But beerwithgeeks.com, you can email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. Sorry, beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. You can rate and review us or subscribe in any podcast app that you like. And that's a great way to support the show. It helps us a lot. The ratings do a lot. Subscribing does a lot. And you can be one of our personal heroes by going to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio and helping us to cover the costs of making a podcast.
Excellent. Yeah. I hope that everybody does that for our sakes and for their sakes. Frank, it was always a pleasure to talk to you about Star Trek. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.